Thank you all, and I apologize in advance that we scheduled this at the same time as the Middle East vigil. And I will ask you to think about if we have a group consensus to move it an hour earlier on the next meeting, which is March 26th. So we began with reflection on this idea that DK gives us in Glamour World Problem, that advanced thinkers, those upon the probationary path, upon the path of discipleship and the path of initiation, have reached a point where materialism and spirituality, the dweller on the threshold and the angel of the presence, and the basic dualism of manifestation can be seen clearly defined. So what would be helpful is if those of you who were part of that reflective point for about 15 minutes, those who came in, if you had any insights into this statement that DK gives us, and are you sensing an ability to see more clearly this point of differentiation from the dweller on the threshold and the angel of the presence? And as we do this, I'd ask that you raise your hand and and unmute yourself. And then we'll, at the close of your remark or comment, let us have a period, not long, but maybe at least a half a minute of silence to absorb what you've said before offering any follow-up comments. And then raise your hand if you would like to make a comment that's not related, so that we have a flow of comment and reflection as we move forward. So would anyone like to share from that period of reflection? Martine had shared in the comment section the quote about from Albert Einstein, and then Ben shared that Einstein donated $1 million to start a college of medicine, which surely would be an indication of that ability to see clearly defined the dweller and the angel, and that a person recently donated $1 billion so students could study free of debt with no class barriers. So thank you both for bringing that to our attention.
I was impressed today by the constancy of the word worth. Worthiness, unworthiness, worthwhile, and taking it into sort of that global arena, it really made me pause and think of sort of the glamour that comes from that word, and how that makes one feel on a personal level, but how that makes a nation feel on that global level, that if they don't have the ability, and I'll take this into the monetary and the financial ability to participate, that there is a feeling that they are being excluded, that this inequity creates a sense of unworthiness in the wholeness of the world. And this worthiness, I think, on all levels is sparked into competition of some sort. And I think when one is competing, one isn't necessarily cooperating. So worthiness is what I was impressed with today.
Thank you. Would anyone like to add their thoughts to that question of worth, the meaning, the extended application of worth? Thank you. And you gave us many suggestions for the glamours that are part of this world glamour of materialism that emerge out of the whirlpool for us to attend to dissipation of competition, that unhealthy competition. Disrespect for those who do not have the financial means to represent their opinions on a larger scale. Criticism, the many glamours that are associated with that. Thank you. So DK goes on to say, because of this clarity of demarcation, the issues underlying the present, which was, of course, almost 100 years, 75 years ago, world events, the objectives in the present worldwide struggle, which we see happening today, the modes and methods of reestablishing the spiritual contact so prevalent in Atlantean days and so long lost, and the recognition of the techniques that can bring in the new world era and its cultural order can be clearly noted and apprised or appraised. That's a very interesting comment from DK, that the spiritual contact was prevalent in the Atlantean days and lost. Does anyone have thoughts about how that spiritual contact is now being recovered? Go ahead, Judy.
I would say that it's being recovered by the new group of world servers, certainly. And the idea that we support that light and love because it really is the only thing that can bring through the evolution of humanity, of consciousness, to basically dispel the illusions of the Maya, the glamour that are working on those planes to prevent the seeing. I think that in the Piscean age, the hierarchy needed to retreat, and now that there is a group of servers which is recognizing what was lost and reclaiming it for humanity, that there's a place for them to work again.
Thank you. Ben says, worthy is the Lamb who is slain to receive power and wealth and wisdom and might and honor and glory and blessing. Worthy is the Lamb who is slain, the sacrifice, and in that sacrifice, receiving power and wealth and wisdom and might and honor and glory and blessing. Thank you, Ben. Martine shares, these two forces, materialism and spirituality, face each other. What will be the outcome? Will men arrest the evil and initiate a period of understanding, cooperation, and right relationship? Or will they continue the process of selfish planning and of economic and militant competition? The question must be answered by the clear thinking of the masses and by the calm and unafraid challenges of the democracies. Development of intelligent mind and love in action will help.
I simply want to add that the first part, up to democracies, is from decay in externalization of the hierarchy. And what I have added is that the development of the intelligent mind, the masses, but also of world servers, and the fact that we try to put in action the love, I think that that will help. And also that keeping the vision high, the vision of the possibility and of a future world which will be fair for everybody.
These are some of the ideas that were shared in our last time together. To always think of to serve and to not exact due service. So let us take this to a level where we might ask the question, what are the signs? Desha, would you be willing to read this for us, please?
Happy to do that. Joe, Andrea did have her hand raised.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Andrea.
I'm sorry, I'm going to reference a little bit back to the other page just quickly, because when it was brought to the attention of the hierarchy leaving us to be the responsible ones after the Atlantean times, it just occurs to me that, and the gift of compassion that was brought through the Christ is part of that responsibility. They stepped away. We were given compassion, and it is through our collective compassion and that expansion of that we, as Judy said, the new group of world servers will bring that intention that hierarchy has now given us the responsibility to bring.
So in bringing that compassion into greater presence, it assists in recognizing the techniques that can bring in the new world era and its cultural order. Then, if we follow that line of thinking and endeavor to present signs of compassion in all, I guess, that we do as individuals, as groups, in community, as a foundational piece for developing the modes and methods that can establish the spiritual contact again. So let's hold that as Desha reads, and then we can ponder on this.
The whole page here, Joe.
Yes, please.
Okay. Number 5, bringing home to the nations of the world the truths taught by the Buddha, the Lord of Light, and the Christ, the Lord of Love. In this connection, it might be pointed out that basically, A, the dominant developed nations and regionalized controlling alliances ruled by materialism need to grasp the teaching of the Buddha as he enunciated it in the Four Noble Truths. They need to realize that the cause of all sorrow and woe is desire. Desire for that which is material. B, the United Nations. Those nations freed from the dominating materialism of the times need to learn to apply the law of love as enunciated in the life of Christ, and to express the truth that no man liveth unto himself, and no nation either, and that the goal of all human effort is loving understanding, prompted by a program of love for the whole.
in reflecting back on our period of silence, allowing the dissipation of this glamour, was there anything in that experience that signified to you the beginning of this, what I call challenge by Master DK, appearing on the world scene? As the glamour dissipated and the light appeared, did you see a sign of the light emerging? Go forth.
I would say that what I recognized as the darkness seems to be, I don't want to say reinventing itself, but pushing harder, is that there is an equal and maybe a more so recognition of the light, maintaining and pushing it back. So I don't know that I saw it as a dissipation so much as a almost a resistance, if you will, kind of pushing against the wind, but moving that light forward incrementally, because now that darkness seems to really be at the surface and it is becoming much more recognized for what it is. And so the forces of light are really beginning to mobilize more.
For me, sort of as Judy said, it wasn't a dissipation. It was pulling back the illusion to recognize that there really is an increasing amount of cooperation. We see that on a global level if we look for it and pay attention to it. You know, we see it in scientific collaboration. We see it through the International Space Station. We see it through the Human Genome Project. We see it through, you know, the climate activism and the activism that is bringing we the people together and creating a voice that really is speaking towards human rights and social justice. We see it in the digital global village that exists on a worldwide scale. It is, you know, there is something that is collaborating and cooperating despite what is easy to see in the competitive darkness. There really is an expanding light. It's just finding that perspective to see that, which is that perspective of optimism and trust.
Thank you, Andrea, for those reminders. I think we often get caught in the very energy that we are hoping to dissipate, which is, I think there's an addictiveness about materialism. And we see things, I have a tendency to see things in terms of conflict. I'm glad you used the word challenge, Joe. So understanding the power of the light to dissipate the darkness, rather than pushing against and resisting darkness, it's the reminder to shine as brightly as we can and let the energy of that do its job. Your reminder of compassion, Andrea, is helpful. Because sometimes I have difficulty feeling compassion for global corporations that are just caught in the addiction of the material and pushing it so strongly to the degradation of the planet. So the reminder that there is good happening everywhere and we are part of that, I think, is crucial. Thank you.
So I'll add one comment before we close, go to the closing, and that is we'll continue with this particular point of the dialogue when we meet in 2 weeks. And during that time, if you would consider, particularly if you do the Glamour meditation, do it as an individual and then as a group, so that we can start to surface, as we have today, these individual strategies and ideas and stances that then we can hold as a group. And I really appreciate, Daisha, you're mentioning this, which I think for many of us is a tendency to condemn a whole institution because of what we recognize as a major glamour within the activities of the institution, whether it's a government or a corporation or a community, that seems so counter to letting the light in and expressing compassion. So examine how that's playing out in your own experience and in your group's experiences. One of the blessings of the teaching is that it seems always to draw us to that higher point. I greatly appreciate that. In my own experience of the group dissipating process today, I was drawn to different areas around the globe, and that I rendered in my own thinking to the group process that was unfolding during that silent period. So your sharing of the specifics around your own experience is really beneficial to all of us. And Martine says, doing as Master DK says, doing as the masters who are the lords of compassion, being the lords of compassion. For we know, as Ben said, there's a statement from one of the teachers, I will shake all nations and the desire of all nations shall come. So let us envision the desire being that higher desire of the angel of the presence. I'll flip through and I will add these comments in where appropriate. So, Margie, would you lead us in the 2 closing mantrams?
Yes. In the center of all love, we stand. From that center, as the soul, we outward move. From that center, as the ones who serve, we work. May the love of the divine self be shed abroad in our hearts, through our groups, and throughout the world. Let us sound the mantram of the new group of world service. May the power of the one life pour through the group of all true service, the first aspect of divinity. May the love of the one soul characterize the lives of all who seek to aid the great ones, the second aspect of divinity. May we fulfill our part in the one work through self-forgetfulness, harmlessness, and right speech, the third aspect of divinity.
Gratitude.
Oh, you were saying that perhaps on the 24th, agreeing to meet an hour earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the discrepancy in the times was only for 2 weeks.
Is it? Because I
Mhm.
saw the Middle East vigil was to start at 11 my time, which is when we started today. So, and that's only, well, we'll check that out. Thank you, Daisha. And I'll check with you all about that. So many blessings, gratitude. And if anyone would like to lead the technique of light, and if someone else would like to facilitate the dialogue next week or next time we meet, please let us know.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, everyone.